I've created
a snow cone.
Yeah, well, I've created an object that has my energy. Well, the consequence of putting energy into it is that I've created it. Now, the snow is obviously going to melt, right? It's not going to be something that I can transfer. But I could throw it at someone and hit him and maybe get joy, right? So there's wealth that has been created as a potential if I choose to use the snowball in this particular case. So I think, like, for me, the journey begins by discussing what it is about human activity that differentiates natural objects from human-altered objects. Right? I mean, like, the discussion for me kind of begins there. So we can begin by saying that anything that you manipulate or anything that you modify from a natural state is a product that can be analyzed for artistic content. So that opens it up to anything. Like if I just go puke on the sidewalk, and I could argue that I've created something that we can classify as worthy of consideration.
Especially if the puke takes on the form of the Virgin Mary or Jesus Christ.
Right.
Or Che Guevara.
There's a religious icons will take us further. But so we can begin there. So we've got like people out there who believe that anything is art. I mean, except for my work.
Oh, you mean like the artist who's now famous who took a picture of his semen flying through the air many times and then sold that as art, or the
right. And so what Adam Smith would say is that, well, you have created a product. Okay, like all you've done is created a product. Art and fine art need to be analyzed as something that has moved beyond simply being a product of something.
But we can shorten the word fine art with the acronym FART.
Well, that is what passes itself off today.
Oh yeah,
as fine art.
Wasn't there an artist who farted in a jar and sold it?
I wouldn't. I mean,
I'm sure
you can sell, the Jesus in the jar of piss.
Was that Piss Christ? Yeah, that was the one. That was the same guy that did the ejaculate. Oh, I know. Well, I saw it. But yeah, and that's where the general public goes, huh?
But you see, here's the thing. But the reason that guy's work is selling is because of
his name.
And his name. Yeah. So the most important component to contemporary art is
it's the signature, or if it's not a signature, the name. The fact that somebody touched it. It's kind of like buying the football jersey with some famous player signed it and he sweated in it, so now it's worth $50,000.
There's some really good artists out there.
But okay, so the question then becomes: we know that
it's easy to define art by what it's not.
Yeah, it's easy to define art by what it's not, and what we've actually defined. Well, we haven't really defined art yet. We've defined the product space, the human energy space. Like just by touching something and modifying it, you created a derivative from nature. But now we want to say, okay, well now that we've defined what is natural and what is man or human made or human affected. Now we want to say that there are things that are affected by humans with the intent of standing for art. Well, now that conversation is the one that's got me
in trouble.
Yeah, that's the one where I'm still working it out, because the pragmatist, the guy Charles Peirce, I rely on his philosophy. Right? He talks about how two people, and I just read this today actually. Right? Like, let's say you and I both walk up to a piece of art. What we do, the artwork doesn't change because two different people are looking. The artwork is the thing that is static and remains unchanging. What we form in our mind is called an interpretant. And so, to varying degrees, let's say it's a painting of something that is that's common, what are those things called? Gypsies? jeepneys?
Jeepneys.
Okay, like let's say it's a painting of a jeepney with some people hanging out or something. Or just a painting of the jeepney. You have collateral experience, so the interpretant that forms in your mind will take into consideration your prior experience. So you're going to see something that you know.
Yeah.
I'm
Then
going
we
to
go, oh, a jeepney.
Yeah, but I'm not going to know what that is. I'm going to know it's an automobile, but I'm going to have what's called a less developed sign in my mind. Now,
However, a jeepney is probably a bad example because...
because it's pretty obvious.
Well, because it's the most visceral response you get of a jeepney comes from people who have never seen a jeepney before. And a jeepney is basically a rolling work of art.
Well, okay, let's say it's a painting of a type of fruit, jackfruit, or something that maybe I've never seen but you have.
But I've eaten jackfruit and I understand. I'll go, oh, jackfruit. And you'd be like, oh, what is that spiny looking thing?
Yeah, because I really don't know.
Is that a porcupine? Is it a green porcupine? What?
Right, so the sign, the interpretant that forms in my mind is incomplete. Whereas yours is more complete because you have collateral experience. Now, people have elevated the subjective interpretation, the formation of the interpretant, above the creation of the artwork itself. In the abstract building, I believe this to be true. And so I'm trying to figure out how to quantify quality with respect to these products that have been made. Like good art, bad art. I don't know.
Are you guys cold?
No. I feel like I'm closer to. I've been writing it down more than I've been talking about it. So
Yeah.
I feel like I'm kind of drifting around.
So you could try and have a more reasonable sounding argument.
Yeah.
Other than just criticizing for the sake of criticizing, which wasn't what you guys did and wasn't your intention.
Yeah, I wasn't.
But understandably, that's how it came across.
Well, if your respondent accuses you of attacking,
Well,
then you have to then the tone has been set for the remainder of the conversation.
Look at that. Straight ahead.
Oh my god. That needs a minus on it.
It sure does. Yeah.
Well,
Archie's Scott Gobber knows nothing about me. He doesn't know my age. He doesn't know anything about my life. He doesn't know anything I've done.
well, he took it as
Just made a bunch of shit up.
well, he took it as an attack, and just a straightforward attack. And the reason why the little history in the art community is that everybody does that. If he didn't know who you were or what, and he's read this attack, he probably thought you were some, as Stretch likes to say, some young art school punk sitting in the coffee house with a computer drinking their $5 latte, you know? And that was probably his first visceral reaction to what he perceived as an attack. And then when people said, no, these are people who've been in this community for quite a while, they actually run a gallery, I went, whoa, wait a second, that's not typical.
Yeah, but he didn't. He said the Keyhole was an alternative art space. It was just
I thought
about
all art
seeing
spaces were
certain-
alternative. Well, see, that says to me that he had that reaction. You know, that word is thrown out there, alternative or punk or even, you know, hippie, you know. And there are these people who maybe rightfully so perceive the art world as like young up and coming people, young artists, maybe under 20 or maybe under 30, usually under 30, coming into their own or trying to come into their own, perceiving the older people like David Ford, Jim Leedy, you know, as maybe the target, you know, somebody to pick on because it's cool to do. And that's not what you guys are at all. I mean, you guys are not typical. But I think their reaction was that you probably were that. And, you know, that's sort of the point of, like, bringing out this conversation, that if we actually... I wish we could have them in the car and having this conversation and recording it, because when you do have the conversation, people go, well, wait a second. These people have a more reasonable background and more reasonable argument.
I tried to have a conversation with Archie Scott Gobert before, and he deleted me.
Oh, in Facebook, wonderful. We can delete everything that's inconvenient to us. And I'm not attacking Archie. I'm just saying that that's too typical these days. As a matter of fact, somebody got on there, and as one of their arguments, they posted a link to a whole Facebook page dedicated to the delete button.
Oh, yeah.
And I know who created that Facebook page, and I know what that person is all about. And what they're all about is not about open conversations. I used to participate in his web forum. His name is Scott Bourne. And I used to participate in his forum, and he would change people's words around as a joke. They had this automatic word generator, an automatic...
Scrambler.
Well, it didn't scramble. What it would say is, like, it would change the title. And the one that I protested, the one I didn't think was funny at all, was they do it as a joke. I thought it was great. And the one that I didn't think was funny at all was one that basically said, I'm going to assassinate President George Bush. I am serious. You know? And I'm like, why would I want to participate in a forum that would think that's funny? That's not funny. You can get somebody in a lot of trouble doing that.
Yeah, you can actually... That could be considered as a terrorist.
Knowing full well that that's cueing in the government bots that are set up to look for key phrases and words, looking for terrorists.
That's definitely turning the all-seeing eye on you.
Exactly, and it's kind of like a friend of mine was getting death threats from a Nazi. The guy just clued in on him and was like, I'm a Nazi and I'm gonna come and kill you. Don't let your cats out. You know, stupid stuff like that. Well, the President of the United States came to Topeka, and I said, Bob, you know, because my friend Bob actually did call the police, and they said, well, disengage. That's all you got to do is disengage with the guy. And I said, Bob, you need to do something more. You need to send his emails and stuff to the Secret Service. And we didn't think anything would come of it. The guy got a visit from the Secret Service.
They take that very seriously.
Exactly, they really do. I mean, that.
I guess I should go home now.
Need to go home?
I have to wake up at 6.
Do you want to go eat, or?
How much is this? Is it all you can eat pancake?
No, it's
Just regular pancake.
one panic.
One pancake.
I'm actually heading over to pick up Suyen right now.
Oh. Okay, I'll get it.
We don't have to do YJs, but it's been our tradition.
How much is it for pancakes?
I don't know, what is it?
No
It's just, Yeah, we didn't expect quite the reaction that we got, and the way we knew about it was he immediately fired off, you guys are assholes for turning me into the Secret Service, and he started doing all this, and we're like, hey, you know, you were making death threats to